Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hi.
The first ever 4-person podcast I've done. So, and we have with us guitar,
Yeah.
and this is maracas.
That's a clave.
A clave.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So is that like for hitting?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hit one with the other.
Okay. All right. And maybe we're going to get some music today, do you think?
Quite likely.
Quite likely.
Yeah.
I hope so. So guys, how was your weekend?
Beautiful. We love Ireland.
What do you think? It's actually freezing today, literally freezing. But is it your first time here?
Yes.
Yeah. And it was in Hot Yoga Dublin is somewhere, I don't even know this, but I did my 300 hour with Joe and Jane in Hot Yoga Dublin. It's a really beautiful studio, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And it's big, it's very like a lot of natural light. And but your system is Mandala Vinyasa. Is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you. And I was exposed to Mandala Vinyasa before. I mean, well, I'm aware of like, you know, a mandala is a geometric figure of the universe. And I thought that my only understanding of mandala yoga was that it's 360 degrees. Is that a feature of it?
Yes.
Okay.
Mainly.
But what's the premise of it? Like what? Because I heard about like, the elements like earth, air, fire. What's the fourth one?
And air.
Water.
And water.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So how do you then combine that into a yoga? Or how do you integrate that into a yoga practice?
Well, I actually follow the Mayan calendar. And everything began because in the Mayan calendar, you are a combination of the sun and the moon. And that combination it results in a specific element. So the main premise of the Mayan calendar is to go with the flow, is to follow the specific energy that is within the universe. That way you have more fluidity into your life. So by following the Mayan calendar, I was like, how can we integrate a system in your body that also follows the same premise? It's also like going to the gym, you know, that you go one day you do arm, another day you do glutes, you know.
Yeah.
So that's the main idea, is to go with the flow and to incorporate a system that is holistic. So I created a system where basically one day you work in back bends, another day you work in forward folds, another day you work in twist, another day you work with adductors. And by doing that, you also are activating the meridians in that specific part of the body. And by doing that, you create an holistic system within yourself.
So therefore, say like back bends would be water or something. Like, do you combine it that way? So, and then fire might be, I suppose fire would be back bends or twist. Twist is kind of calming.
Twist. Yeah.
So
Fire is twist.
Fire is twist. Okay.
Yeah. So I will begin from order of density. So earth is related to forward folds and a hamstring stretch. Water is related to adductors, and you work with the groin. Fire is related to twist and also to side torso extensions, and air is related to back bends.
I see. Okay. So how do you guys combine then, the three of you? Because so Carlos, what's your offering? Because I looked at you online about Kung Fu, about the Aztec dance, which is why I'm wearing this. And even though I'm really, really hot, actually.
You look very good.
Thank you. I haven't worn this since I was 26, I think. So I'm 37 now. I bought this when I went traveling, and I just never had a chance to wear it. But
it's amazing.
It's time to come back.
It actually does look a little bit Celtic.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah. But yeah, so you from what I've heard from the students, because I've been speaking to some of the students this weekend on Instagram, they're saying that you actually mix music live during the practice.
Yes. Well, that was an idea that they had the first time I did a teacher training with the yoga people. And they just came over because we did an album just before that for the Chiquitza, the Ashtanga series, primary and secondary series. And what we did is I just created the music for that, for the practice, for the Ashtanga practice. So they say, well, might as well, do you want to do it live? So it was an experiment that took years of refinement. We're talking about that. No? So it's basically following the flow of the class and following the energy of the class, going up and down with the dynamic that is going on in the room, and trying to bring also that into the elemental ways. No? So music that connects more with the fire usually is more upbeat and more energetic. Usually the music that works the best with earth is more grounding, more drums and a little bit more wild in a way, but lower tempos usually. And air is usually very uplifting music, and this kind of thing. Water is kind of emotional, even like sensual in a way.
And does it have lyrics?
Some have lyrics, some have lyrics. At first I tried not to use any lyrics at all, but then people sometimes like it also.
I think kind of chanting really helps. It helps to the even if you can't actually, I think if you can't understand the lyrics, sometimes it's better because you're not distracted. So I've noticed that if I'm in a class and there's maybe some tribal drums and some shamanic chanting in the music, you're not thinking about the content of it as opposed to the actual vibration, the sound. So I found that works pretty well. And then Zuro?
Yes.
Yes,
perfect.
Thank you. So you then play guitar as well as this going on at the same time?
No, not at the same time. Mostly shavasanas. I play and sing during that stage, and also we have this segment of the day where I will do some vocal liberation techniques. And he'll do some dancing, some shamanic dancing. So it's also getting to connect with themselves, and sometimes I use words that cannot be understood, so it's just vibration based. And sometimes I do use some words, some phrases, some key images to connect also. Through imagination.
So do you actually narrate as well, or is it just instrument?
The song itself is narrating a scenario or a particular feeling that one can connect to.
Okay. And if you, when you're playing this, do you also do panpipes as well? Do you play the pipe?
No.
No, someone lied to me. So that's the pipes that go like this, and you.
No, well,
that's my panpipe impression.
Yeah, no, he plays the flutes. He plays some flutes.
Okay.
I do vocal trumpet, overtone singing, and just normal singing, guitar, percussion. But no panpipes yet.
Okay, not yet. So but when you came through customs, did they take your guitar from you, or did they stop the guitar coming through when you came?
No, we didn't have a guitar.
Oh. My information is someone said that you guys came over and customs didn't let you take your guitar.
No.
Okay, all right. That's complete. So, but you have a guitar anyway. So
yes.
So thanks to the Yeray, I think Yeray. Yeah. Instagram is a powerful thing. So but I never met the guy, but he does great hand balancing workshops. But so you guys then, as we were talking about earlier, you're from Mexico, but you don't have. Well, you guys, that's your home where you're based, but you travel. You're a person of the world. That's new terminology. So then, is this a case of? Did you meet all in Mexico and then go from there, or how did you come to meet?
Yeah, we have been friends for a long time, actually.
Yeah, around 11 years.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And Zuro, how did you?
I've been friends with him for 8 or 7 years, and with her for half a year. But we really clicked with this project.
And where's Jamie then?
In Thailand.
Oh, he's in Thailand now.
Yeah, he's teaching.
So Jamie is Jamie then travels normally around with you, and you travel normally together and teach workshops.
Yeah, we have our own projects. So he does more of yin yoga, rocket yoga, and I do mandala. And now, because demand, we are basically separate because we have so many trainings all over the world.
Right, yeah.
At the moment, he's in Thailand. He's doing a yin and meditation course over there.
Okay.
Yeah. But we were together as well with him just
a week ago.
a week ago.
And because I have only done one Ashtanga class, and it was a 2-hour workshop with Kina McGregor. So that was an interesting introduction.
Oh yeah, I imagine.
I thought, okay, this is, this should be fairly straightforward, but it was very challenging. And Kino is all the primary series, so loads of like jump throughs and sitting in cross-legged postures. And then I started to get really interested in Ashtanga in general, and and Larry Schulz. And what I found interesting about Larry Schulz, even though I've obviously never met the guy, but there's stuff interviews you can find with him online, and he's very he seems to be a bit of a rebel, or he was a bit of a rebel. What did you train with Larry?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And how did you get introduced to him, and what was the relationship you had?
Well, I did my first teacher training in Mexico with a teacher called Pepe, and it was based in Ashtanga Vinyasa. So then, of course, I fell in love with yoga and I wanted to do more and more courses. So I asked him, I was like, what do you think I should do next? So he sent me over to San Francisco, and he said, you know what, you need to check out this guy. He's pretty awesome. He did his own variation of the primary series and second series, and he put more uplifting tempo and variations to it. So I went to visit him. I did a teacher training with him, and I don't know, I think he just liked me immediately, and he decided to keep me like one of his teachers, and he asked me to take the rocket to London. And so in a way I feel very lucky because he started me basically in the international world of yoga.
Which is a really great way to give someone confidence, isn't it? To go and be like a guest teacher, especially in another country. Why Rocket Yoga has become really popular here too, in Ireland, in Dublin. And how I actually heard about you guys was from Sarah and Susie, who were on your training in Thailand. In Thailand, yeah. Okay. And so they're hopefully going to bring Rocket Yoga to Yoga Hub, and they've been doing it already a little bit. But I did, again, a rocket workshop, and I absolutely loved it. I because I love the challenge of the arm balancing and stuff like this. That, to be honest, from a physical side in Ireland, yoga is quite we're a little bit behind in terms of how physical we are, because it's quite new to Ireland. You know, America is kind of physically advanced, then you have the UK, and then you would have Ireland. And I think sometimes when you have classes like this, it scares people because they think, rocket, Jesus, that sounds like quite intense. But why do you think rocket? I mean, I like it because it's because of the physical challenge of the arm balances. But why do you think other people find it so appealing compared to maybe, well, anything else really, like Ashtanga?
I will say it's because it breaks the hierarchy of the primary series of the Ashtanga system, because traditionally it was based on if you can do something, you can progress. If you cannot do something, you need to stop, you need to go to closing, and that's it for you. So Larry Schulz, he didn't have an amazing practice actually. He was quite restricted in his body. So he started mixing up the sequence. He was like, you know what, I cannot do Marichasana deep, but I can do a handstand, so I'm going to do a handstand instead. So I think the reason why it's so appealing is because of that, because he wasn't basing his system on alignment or what you can do. It was more about enjoyment. You want to do something else, you go there. You cannot do this specific alignment, you do what you need to do. So it was the freedom. I will say it's the freedom.
I think as well, like that is that is like inviting for people, because I think people are almost tired of being told it has to be this way, that way, and I think as well, without reading too much into it, but in Ireland we've been dominated by the Catholic Church for so many years. You know, very strict Catholic country, and now with the internet and people have more knowledge and more power has been decentralized, and people have way more knowledge, and all this scandals have come out about, you know, the Catholic Church, that people are thinking a bit more like we don't need to be told what to do. And I think that's filtering through to yoga, because now it's a case of people are wanting to question why they're doing things for themselves. And I think a really good teacher, or the one that people like now, is a teacher who says to them, you know, can you find the joy in it? Like, can you actually have a laugh? Because I just find that when I first started in yoga, I started with Bikram, and while it was great to start, I really resented the kind of authority that the teacher had, and it was too like they were way too strict, and it made me not want to do it then, because I felt like I was in school. You know? And what I like now is to have some fun in class and actually laugh if it's fun, and you know, dance or ask people to be free. Like if you say to someone in class, okay, do what you want to do. Like say you're in all fours, do a cat-cow. Everyone can do a cat-cow. You know, they know that. Okay, I know my parameters cat-cow. If you say express yourself, like what? I can't think freely. And this is why dance really interests me, because so say in this training, did you introduce any? Did people dance?
Yes. Well, I focus. There's one training that we do in Goa that we focus a lot more on Aztec dancing and like traditional Mexican, we could say, like medicine and expression and art and all of that culture. But in the rest, I try to mix it up with other techniques of movement. So finding ways that people can move differently than what they're accustomed to. So that kind of breaks the mental pattern as well. So we may do everything from like Aztec dancing to dervish dancing, to maybe a little bit of Tai Chi, to a lot more free expression, or maybe just chaotic movement. Whatever comes up, because it's a different part of ourselves that needs to awaken. And for each person, it's going to be a different experience. And maybe one exercise might bring to light something that they hadn't felt or seen, experienced before.
When you say that word patterns, actually, this is an interesting word, because I've seen that in the descriptions of I think Jamie mentioned as well, that word patterns. What are we talking about? Are we talking just physical patterns, or are we emotional patterns? Is that what you're addressing?
We're talking about preconceived ways of action and reaction to stimulus. So pattern is just a way that you're accustomed to doing or reacting to something. We can leave it like that. But maybe emotionally, physically, mentally.
Let's psychoanalyze everyone. But I think that is interesting, because particularly with dance, again in Ireland, okay, full disclosure, I'm English. I mean, I was born in England. I have an English accent, but my mum and dad are Irish. So I was raised kind of as an Irish boy. Very stereotypical upbringing for an Irish child, let's say. And in Ireland, the dancing is Irish dancing, where until Michael Flatley came along, it was hands by your side. So your upper body is completely still, and the legs are just moving this way, like that. They're not going open too much. They're like just going forwards and backwards. And I think dance really says a lot about culture, and how I say we in Ireland / England have this almost like overhang of Catholic guilt, and how we can't experience too much pleasure. Be careful of pleasure. You don't want to have too much fun, I think. And I think this you can see this in the dance.
Yeah, of course.
Have you noticed when you go and teach around the world, like how the cultural differences with dance.
Oof, yes, a lot.
So what could we learn in Ireland, do you think, about expressing ourselves?
Well, for one, I think a lot of people have a conception of dance that it has to be technical. Like either you're a dancer or you don't know how to dance. No? Or you know how to dance salsa, or we try to bring it down into genres or ways of dancing, and we forget that dancing is just a human expression. So just movement is expression. So I think first is trying to understand we need to deconceptualize the word dancing or music. You know, people think, oh, you're a musician because you learn music, but everyone can sing, everyone can clap, you know. So it's remembering that we all have an artist within ourselves, and we can all find a way of expressing. But obviously, in many countries, that is suppressed by culture, maybe because it's not well seen to be publicly dancing or expressing an emotion or feeling, or simply, you know, whatever you want to show to others. But I do feel like, for example, in Latin America, it's a lot more free. Like people like to dance, a lot. We like party, so.
When I got this is it a jumper? What would you call this? Sweater?
Well, it looks Peruvian, like a Peruvian sweater.
It's Peruvian, yeah. It's alpaca. Is that okay to have alpaca? We were talking about Palo Santo earlier, which we have burning here. So when I was in Peru, I was on my way to Colombia, and when I went to Colombia, I remember very clearly we're in this hostel, and me and my friend Matt, he was from Birmingham, and people in Birmingham, I don't want to offend the whole place in England, but they're okay. I don't want to Birmingham to attack me, but Birmingham, they're like very like everyone is kind of. They're very English. Okay, so they're very English, let's say. And so we went to this. We're in the hostel, and we're sitting there, me and him, and my friend Jorge, who was a Colombian guy, like very kind of suave and giving, and he kind of spoke like with a really deep voice and had a mustache. And he said, "Oh, we have these women coming, like to friends of his." I was like, "Oh, great, that's great. We'll speak with them." I was a bit nervous. They came. And the music came on, and it's like 3:00 in the day, and I was thinking, okay, what happens now? And Jorge, they were like, "Come and dance with us," and we thought, oh shit, we need to drink alcohol. Like I can't dance unless I'm drunk. I cannot. And then me and Matt sat there while Jorge just like danced with one girl, then two girls, then three girls, and we looked at each other and we thought, we are pathetic. We're too English, because I think like not just for yourself to express yourself, but also to connect with other people.
Yes.
And yoga is great. I mean, obviously I love yoga, but it can actually can be quite lonely. You go to class, put your mat down, you do your practice, you go home. Sometimes you don't speak to anybody, and that's I think that's a real shame, and I think that's why music is so powerful. You know, do you think when you did the teacher training this time, did you discover anything about like as you're doing teacher trainings? Do you discover things that you didn't realize before, maybe about yourself or about the trainees? Anyone? This is a free, open question.
Well, I think there's always. For me, the nice thing about working with the yoga people is there's always space for exploration and for being creative. You know, and in my personal experience has been a lot of just maybe changing the class or coming up with something on the spot and just taking people for wherever it seems that they might need at that point. So
not being too
strict. For me, that's the discovery.
Yeah, not being too strict.
Yeah,
isn't it? Because sometimes you have a plan and you think, okay, I have to teach my plan. Then you don't have the skill of being able to be
spontaneous.
Thank you. My English is not struggling at the moment. But what about you, Dulce? What have you learnt?
That you have to go with the flow. And I actually, the thing that I appreciate now the most is that we discovered that before, when we didn't have practices that included singing and dancing, it was like they didn't have an element to be free, and the trainings were a lot heavier. People will get in their head, they will be more depressed, and we will have even more trouble to host the training. So we realized, we were like, we need to do something. We need to have an element of a space where they can move, where they can express, where they can yell, where they can get a little bit crazy. So we decided to start integrating practices of dancing, of chanting, and boom, that became so powerful, and it made the trainings a lot lighter. And the people, we noticed that they start even getting happier and more appreciative of what we were offering. So I think one of my biggest discoveries is that healing and dancing is one of the most healing tools that you can use for everything. Yeah.
And you, Zuro?
I love spontaneous moments like the one we just had, where we forgot the word spontaneous. That was really spontaneous in some way, right? I had this favorite musician, and he would say that he got really depressed because every time he went out, he would sing the same songs in the same way, with the same arrangement, with the same tempo, everything, and that was killing him as an artist. So I set out to try and do it differently every time. And for me, that's what makes it fresh and keeps it interesting, that every time I do a song, I'm figuring out how I'm gonna do it, you know. There are some things that kind of stick, you know, that like I found this and I want to keep this, but then I'm gonna try something else. And I invite people to also let go. We do a lot of like free flow vowels and sounds. And that's one of the most beautiful experiences for me with the singing, because sometimes I will teach them a song and we'll do it together and it's gonna sound beautiful to me, but then I'll just be like, okay, just pick a vowel, let's let go. And first it's very chaotic because everyone's doing something, but then there's like an unspoken song that we are all creating, and then it gets fleshed out. Like now I can hear we're all listening to each other, we're sharing something, and we're creating in this moment our own like painting in the wind, you know. And that sound for me is like, it can only be done when people decide to let go, listen, and join in.
Yeah, but when you're saying to people to create their own vowel or their own sound, you're giving them ownership of it. But then it's almost like that can be quite overwhelming for someone who's not used to taking ownership, because sometimes people like to just switch off, or tell me what to do and I'll just repeat it. And I think that and as a teacher, actually, I think that requires a lot of courage, because you're sitting in that maybe moment of slight awkwardness where there's that resistance, and you're suggesting something that they may not want to do at all. And you, instead of taking the easy route and saying, okay, just copy me, you know, and I think that, and also as well, when you're being spontaneous.
Yeah.
What is going on? When you're being spontaneous. That's the word of the podcast. The spontaneous podcast. But,
Spontastic.
when you're doing that, you are saying that you're also risking making a mistake.
Yeah.
And because if you stick to a plan and everything's already predetermined, your chances of making a mistake is really low. And I find that when I make a mistake, because I'm always trying to change what I'm teaching, because I want to learn more as well and evolve, but it opens me up to making mistakes, even if it's something very simple like an anatomical, like left and right. You to allow yourself to make a mistake, whether it's playing the wrong note, or singing the wrong word, or doing the wrong transition, to allow that to happen, because then the students can see that, you know, you are human, but it's how you react to it, isn't it? I used to pretend that I didn't make a mistake. Just, like, we've done the right side 4 times. But I used to pretend and just kind of, if I ever made a mistake, I would never say it. I'd just continue on. But now, because my ego was talking, but now I would just say, look, I messed up. I'm sorry. So can we do this? But that takes a bit of courage. And in terms of evolving teaching, I'm interested in shamanism. So, is that something you all practice, or are you all involved in shamanism?
Yes.
We could say.
Some people say shamanism, or like I say a shaman. Some people say a shaman. What would you say?
Shamanism. Honestly.
Okay. Shaman. Okay. I'm taking it to the next level. Shaman. So are all 3 of you a shaman? Are you all 3 of you? Would you cast yourself?
I wish I was.
You wish what is a shaman?
Should we go technical?
Sure.
Okay.
Start with technical.
And the word shaman actually comes from Siberia.
Okay.
So if we go into what a real shaman is, it's a Siberian witch doctor, which works through drumming, through chanting, through the use of plants and certain rituals to achieve an altered state of mind where reality or perception of reality can be shifted. It's the same principle that happens all over the world, but depending on where you are in the world and the different practices that are done, you can call someone, well, you can call it a shaman, but it depends. In Mexico, for example, we will call them someone who practices Nahualismo. No? Nahualismo.
Okay.
Because there's a concept of all shamans look to shape reality through their own perception, because they don't differentiate between what is real and what is our perception of reality. Because at the end, reality is something that is always being created, you know, by your own perception of reality. So in our concept of the Toltec culture, which you could say is kind of like the Vedic in India, or, you know, the Celtic over here. So it's not a specific people, but more like people who get to a certain degree of evolution, of personal evolution, which can be translated as like a spiritual artist, no? But we have this concept of tonal and nahual. The tonal is that which can be seen, and actually the count of the days is the tonalamat. So you count that which is visible, the sun. No? But we also have the nahual, which relates more to the night, which is the invisible, or that which cannot be seen. So if we represent that as conscious and unconscious, going into the nahual is tapping into the unconscious and being able to work in the unconscious realm, which is basically the dream world. But how do you bring the dream world to reality, or to the awakened state? So the best definition that I've found of the shaman is someone that can have each foot on
each side.
Yeah, on each side.
Yeah.
So being on the dream world and being on the real world at the same time. So symbolism becomes material, and at the same time, the visions and the intuition can be brought to whatever activity is done. No?
Why is it really connected to nature?
Yes.
As in being outside, and because we
were talking about that yesterday with another friend who's doing she assisted the training.
Is that Gillian? Is it
Nicola?
Oh, Nicola. Okay, yeah, because I've seen on the thing I've done my research on Instagram. On Instagram, you can like creep on people. Because when I think of shamanism, I think that I imagine like being outside and Well, mainly being outside. I mean, I find that there are some days where I don't have a need to go outside. Obviously, now I have a dog, so I have to walk the dog. Well, I want to walk the dog. And but otherwise, I think that we are living in a generation now where we're indoors all the time, and this is so bad for us. We're not connected to sunrise, sunset, the stars. We can't, like once upon a time we could navigate using the stars, and now people don't even see the stars because the sky is orange. And not just that, but also our furniture. I mean, everything I own is from IKEA, which is, I mean, shout out to IKEA if you want to sponsor the podcast.
Go to ikea.com/
Exactly. So I'm not going to say anything bad about IKEA, but all
great furniture.
Yeah, exactly. At a reasonable price.
Beautiful place.
So, but all furniture, maybe IKEA, maybe not, gives off like fumes, pollution, essentially. And that's why I have these plants here to try and counter that, supposedly. But that's why I think shamanism is so appealing, just for me, the simple fact of being back in touch with nature. But this is also something else I want to talk about, and I'm conscious of your time. Totem stuff. Spirit animal. What is this, Carlos? Is this your bag? Is this your area?
Well, that's something that I'm very passionate about.
Okay. So how does this tie into shamanism?
It's perfectly in tune. If we go back, actually in Mexico, most people call Nahual the spirit animal as well. Because what is, if you go to the backbone of the unconscious brain, it's an animal brain. So I think shamanism is actually allowing yourself to become a little bit more wild and animalistic, which is more in tune with intuition and with responses that are more natural to our body. So I feel that intuition and like what we were saying, being spontaneous is something very animalistic.
Yeah.
You know? It's something very natural. It's gut.
Yeah,
it's gut
so
feeling.
true.
So it's working with the gut feeling. And you find this animal power in the dream state. Because in the dream state, the mind, the reason, which differentiates us from animals, can be turned down a little bit, and we go into more of a subjective, symbolic feeling realm. No?
This is interesting because I went to a lecture a couple of weeks ago in the Space Between, which is a really great studio in Dublin, and as well as Yoga Hub and Hot Yoga Dublin. they're all great studios. Go there for your yoga.
Look for that. 15% off.
Sell everything. But in the Space Between, they had a Carl Jung lecture, and it was talking about the shadow and integrating our dark side and how our animalistic nature. And then I was preparing for teacher training this weekend and was talking about the AUM, and how we have creative power, destructive power, and we need to understand that we all have that within us, like a dark side, essentially, a primal side. And then I was reading about Freud, and Freud has the id, the ego, and the superego. And the id is our animalistic side, the ego is our conscious side, and the superego is the side that feels bad, that our consciousness suppresses our animal, feels that social guilt. And I think that talking about dark side or your animal side, it kind of is not very popular in modern culture, because especially in yoga, people like to portray that they're all good. Because with Instagram, although I do love Instagram, I find that we put people in categories. Okay, this person is a blonde lady from California and she's bendy, therefore she is not into shamanism, for example. Like we do that, I think, on social media. And what we forget is that potentially we all have a dark side, and that is often best explored when we connect back into nature, connect back into music, and obviously movement as well. But what with being like, I'm interested in being more connected to animals anyway. That's part of the reason I got a dog, because you get a dog and he's so simple. He doesn't see people's race, he doesn't see people's gender, he just loves you if you feed him. Kind of like me. And I really love that, he's just unconditional love that he gives you. But so what I'm wondering is, how do you explore your own spirit animal, even if you were, say, if you didn't have a chance to go to one of your ceremonies? How would I know? Like, how would I explore my own spirit animal? Is there like a practice I could do every morning or something? Like,
there's many practices. I mean, for example, the dynamic meditations that Osho created, those are very good. At the end, what we want to do is bring, I don't know exactly how to put it, but like trespass the reason or bypass the reason. So you can do this by maybe putting yourself in a situation where you go out of your comfort zone, because then you won't act out of a preconceived idea of acting. You have to act out of gut, no? So a lot of the practices, for example, in Native American shamanism have to do with that, like going, not eating or drinking for 4 days in the mountain, or, you know, going into a very hot sweat lodge, or dancing all day under the sun. And, you know, so bring yourself to this point of uncomfort where already the mind and the body start to let go, and we say that the real spirit starts to come up, you know, in this type of situations. And I think it's the same thing that happens when people are in a near-death experience, or where they intake a powerful plant, no, or a substance. So all these types of situations bring out a part of you which you try to suppress all the time. Because you have it in control. But once you lose control, it will come out in however way it may come out. And I think what Jung was trying to say is that, you know, the shadow will come out at some point, and you just need to embrace it and let it be. And at one point, you'll be able to match it and work with it instead of trying to put it down.
What do you think, though? I mean, maybe I'm being biased, but what do you guys think? I'm interested in, like, your opinions on social media. What do you think? What do you think about it? It's a big question, I know.
I personally struggle with it, but I think it's absolutely necessary, especially if you have a message or a mission that you want to transmit.
It's also good. Well, it's, if you have a message, it's also really great, I think, for if you're an artist or you're a musician, you know, you can share stuff online. And have you found it to be, because I'm conscious that sometimes I talk badly of social media, and essentially that it has its limitations. But I suppose every tool has a purpose, doesn't it? You know, and if it's used correctly.
Exactly.
Correct.
And in order to, I mean, say for example, when you're traveling around the world, would you say? I mean, I imagine opportunities have maybe come to you through social media. Would that be accurate?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, because people see things. Have you thought about doing any kind of online offering or online training?
Yes, we we actually have a website that we already have a lot of material over there. We have the mandala practices, we have meditations, Carlos has his music, same with Zuro. So yeah, it's been done.
It's being done.
Yes, it's yeah.
So
we
is
have
it
some material already, and we are working on more and more and more material.
So people will be able to actually log on and kind of sign up for a course and just do it all online, video content.
Yeah.
Okay.
Same with classes and meditations.
Yeah, I think that is wise. Because it almost feels like you create, say this weekend you created music, laughter, dance, movement, and it's the people that were there experienced it, which is fantastic, but otherwise it's a memory now. It's kind of all that effort is not documented, and I feel that video is so powerful, obviously, and sound as well. You know, to do that. Do you do that, Zuro? Do you record yourself? Do you do any video for your own music?
Yeah. I started doing these videos where I record myself like 8 times and then do like a multi-screen video.
Oh yeah.
So on one screen I'm playing the guitar, another one I'm singing, another one playing like little
and it makes a
shakers,
song.
And it makes a song.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I bring it all together, and it's like me doing the bass voices and then the high voices and then everything together. And that's really fun for me.
But does that take a while to put?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But it's like with a puzzle. a jigsaw puzzle that you put all the pieces. I get really excited when doing that. So I really like that. And I do love a lot of things about social media. It is true that as a tool, it can be used to one's own demise in a way, but there's a lot of goodies out there.
Yeah, if you get creative and you use it for what you enjoy doing instead of trying to force yourself to fit into how someone else maybe uses it. Like I realized, for example, I can't do a handstand on one hand. That's not my thing. I don't live next to the beach and it's not sunny all the time. So I need to stick to what I'm good at. And I think I like, say, podcasting, for example, and I use social media as a way to publicize the podcast. But as long as you're being creative and maybe sticking to what you enjoy doing, then I think it can be very handy. So what's next for you guys then? You're going to London tonight, are you?
Yes.
And then you're going to Copenhagen next?
No, I'm going to San Diego next.
Okay, San Diego.
And then Mexico.
Are you guys going to stay together, or are you going as a group to London?
In London, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, and then what are you guys doing after that, after London?
Back to Mexico.
And you're back to Mexico too?
And she goes back to San Diego, yeah.
Okay, nice one. And when do you think you'll be coming back to Dublin?
We don't know yet, but we would love to come back.
Yeah. Invitations welcome.
Yeah.
Did you get a chance to explore anywhere else in Ireland?
No.
Since you have a map.
Well,
Did you go anywhere else?
no, not really.
Malahide and Dublin, that's it.
Did you go out? Did you go out last night?
Yes.
Well, the thing is, I wasn't really interested in the sights, like I don't want a selfie at a monument or something like that. We were really interested in musicians from Dublin, and we made some great ones last night at Gogarty's pub.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
on the second floor.
Was it traditional Irish music?
It was traditional Irish music.
Okay.
It was a fiddle, a banjo, and a guitar.
Mm-hmm.
It blew my mind. It was really, really good.
What do you find is distinctive about Irish music?
There's something in the harmony and the melody. Like there's a sound to it. I first got introduced to it with Green Leaves. I heard that song as a child and it haunted me for years. Like I really loved it. And yesterday, like looking at the way, for example, the guitar player was doing it, he's playing that tune. So he's playing like the notes of the melody while also doing the harmony. So he's like strumming chords all over the guitar. And that's not something that I recall seeing anywhere else. Like done like that, like with that expression and that beauty. Like I felt like he could talk through the guitar very clearly and with 6 voices, right? So that really shocked me, and I want to start practicing those kind of exercises. And I think they have a very expressive, emotional kind of music. Like it's got the fresh woodland wind, and also like the fire with the dancing and all, and like the water and all the emotion it moves, and the earth, of course. So it's a very complete music to me, and also because of tradition, it's been building on itself for years, so it gets better and better and better and better and better. Yeah, so I really love Irish music.
Did you look for these musicians, or was it just by accident you found these?
It was just sheer luck.
Sheer
It's a
luck.
blessing. Yeah. Yeah.
There's probably I think there's a lot of good Irish music that goes on, but it's interesting how people normally the tourists or the ones that come here, the visitors, go and see it as opposed to the locals. That's how it often goes. Often you take your own culture for granted and you go and explore. I mean, there's loads of places in Ireland that I haven't been, and tourists will say, or people who visit will say, "Oh, I'm going here next weekend. Have you been?" No, I haven't been. So, save money on airplane flights and explore the country you live in first as well.
Yeah.
Speaking of music, we have maybe I can play this. I don't know.
Sure. Yeah.
I can shake an egg. All right.
Or both of them. I don't know.
Wait, hold on now. 2 at the same time. Is there anything that you guys could do or play, or maybe that is kind of yours that you'd like?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should I wait for a commercial break or?
No, there's no commercial break. No, this is live.
We got all the commercials out of the way
There's
already,
no
right?
commercials.
Oh, sorry.
Do you want me to, is it the
yeah,
guitar?
Yeah, the guitar.
Yeah,
please.
yeah. Talk amongst yourselves.
Well,
Thank
I was
you.
thinking, I find that Irish music has this component of like happy, melancholic festivity.
Yeah. What a combo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so what, are you guys doing anything? Clapping or something? Is it just Zuro, you're doing your thing?
We're doing something. We're being spontastic right now.
That's fantastic.
We're being spontaneous
I've
and
got an A.
aiming for spontasticity. So let's see. First, maybe we'll do some chanting. No words, no symbols, just pure raw voices. And then when we come back from that, we might offer a song. Sounds good?
Perfect.
Okay. Some overtones you want?
I didn't want to make any noise though.
Yeah, well, you were welcome to. It was fine. Yeah. People back at home, you want to clap your hands?
I'll give you
An
one.
English song, one of the translations. We can do Serenity song. We can do Eagle. Can do. Well, if it's shamanism, I think the most shamanic song I've translated as of recent, it's one that is Aguila Aguile, which I translated as Eagle Eagle A. So this is a fun one because I'll say a phrase and then we can all repeat together.
Perfect.
So Dulce will guide you proficiently.
Look after me.
Yeah. Yeah. In the distance,
In the distance,
I can hear a calling,
I can hear a calling,
the beautiful song
song
of a bird in love.
of a bird in love.
And this bird I hear
And this bird I hear
is my grandfather.
is my grandfather.
Is my grandfather singing
My grandfather singing
about his love.
about his love.
And this bird I hear
This bird I hear
is my grandmother.
is my grandmother.
Is my grandmother singing
My grandmother singing
about her love.
about her love.
Singing, singing, singing. Singing, singing, singing. Singing, singing, singing. Singing, singing, singing. Eagle, eagle. refreshing. I was like,
How can we top that? We can't. That was so good. That was the first time we've ever done any singing on the podcast.
Oh.
So this is
Honored.
an exclusive, and I'm honored. Thank you so much. That's an hour. So you guys have things to do, place to be. Any final thoughts?
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thank you for coming. I really appreciate it. I hope this is we see each other again somewhere, sometime. And guys, thank you so much. And
it was really fun.
Yeah, it was so fun. Yeah, I wish we had more time. But if people want to find out more about you, where do they go?
theyogapeople.com and for online trainings and classes. typ.guru.
Perfect. Chaps?
Yeah.
Mundalah.com. Kind of like mandala, but with a U and a H at the end. Mundalah.com.
Nice.
That's it.
Perfect. That's class.
You can just follow the links below.
You're a pro. You're a pro.
They're all right there. Mine is Zuro Amaya. And yeah, man, thanks for having us.
Thanks, Yeray. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yay.